Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, where we take that midweek break to sit back, relax, and cover some of the interesting things going on in the Linux world. And this week is no exception because guess what? Firefox has gotten fast. But you might have to disable a few extensions to make it work. We'll talk about that. And Fedora beta while it's out, milady.
And today we ask what this program do. It'll break your box, that's what. And Ike puts on his cap full-time while also working on Solus.
And GNOME Tweak gets a new release. There's a bit of a Ubuntu flavor to it. There's a new tool under the systemd umbrella, and now they are after your backups.
It's my favorite part of the week is watching him do his
Assimilate!
You can see it. It is pretty organized. Okay, let's get right into it with this GNOME business.
Yeah, so there's this new GNOME Tweak tool, which you might be used to if you use GNOME Shell. It's something to prepare for the next GNOME version, so it will be 3.26. So since this is the development branch, we go with 3.25. Nice thing to note is that Ike Doherty of Solus, which we'll talk about later, has ported the whole thing to Python 3, so no more Python 2. Very, very good thing. I've noticed that there's now a very easy way to switch the side of the window buttons without having to mess up with dconf and dconf editor. So very cool on that. And yeah, I mean, it's there's this new thing. It's a very small feature, but now you can see the GNOME Shell and GTK version from the tool itself, so you don't have to mess with apt-get or like your package manager. That's also very cool.
Or just run screen fetch and it'll tell you the version?
Well, it wasn't written anywhere. I don't think even in the about screen from GNOME Shell. It was very hard to get the GTK version, yeah. So, and there's one thing that Jeremy Bika, I don't know how to say his name, noted in the article is that, yeah, they added these options to add minimize and maximize buttons. And he said that, yeah, he understood that with the dash2dock extension, he saw that, yeah, there is a good use case for a minimize button, but he didn't see the use case for a maximize button. And I thought about it and say, wait a minute. Yeah, that's right. I don't need a maximize button. When I want to maximize something, I just double click on the title bar. I can also drag it to the top of the screen. It works. So I removed it and I feel much better now.
Yeah, there's one thing I was kind of looking forward to with the new versions of the GNOME Tweak tool, because I know that Ike was complaining a while back on Google Plus that when he got his UHD 4K, whatever you want to call it, screen, he ran into issues with GTK scaling, as in GTK only allows scaling in integers. You want to do a floating point scaling like, say, 1.25x. You can't. You either do 1x or 2x.
That might be possible only with Wayland, I think.
They say they are working on it, but the consensus right now seems to be just introduce it in Wayland since it's much easier than having to futz around with the X stuff. Now, this version still allows what the old version of GNOME Tweak tool also lets you do, which is it lets you do window scaling, which is independent from the GTK scaling proper. It just scales those bits of the UI that aren't inherently tied to GTK itself. So, yeah, that's unfortunate.
That the sad thing, I don't think they have a per display scaling, and that would be very annoying. Say that if you have a 4K display and a full HD display, then you wouldn't get the same scaling factor. I mean, it will be the same everywhere, so you would get very big windows on one display and very small ones on the other one, so it would be
all right, Ben, we know you're a big fan of GNOME 3. You got anything?
I'm a huge fan of GNOME. I'm a champion of GNOME since way back in the... No, seriously, come on. Really? I can't imagine, just running a desktop manager that requires the use of a separate tool to get a hold of the advanced configuration options like you're a child. That's really ever since I can remember, it's been one of the things like, GNOME is too simple and KDE has the kitchen sink included. I don't know. That war and argument will go on forever, and have at, because I'm over here on XFCE4 like a sane person. So, Pedro, please, now tell me what this program do.
Well, it do a lot of things, like a lot of things. This is Ubuntu. It's developed by Agelita. I'm assuming that's how you pronounce his name. He is also the developer of the another tool that you might be familiar with if you like Strider, like to run Windows. He'll talk to you about it in a moment. But Ubuntu comes in. It has a Spanish version if you want. The English version has some slight translation quirks, as is to be expected. But it's a very, very...
Answer me this, P-Baby. Is the Spanish version as jacked grammatically as the English one?
No, the Spanish version is actually cohesive.
Okay.
But yeah, no, the English version is... it needs some fixing. So if you want to help him, it's on GitHub. You can do it. But it's a very powerful tool. It lets you... change, update, downgrade, package versions with just a tick of the box and then just hitting apply. It lets you get rid of old kernels. It lets you enable and disable sudo with or without password. It lets you do an insane number of things.
Mm-hmm.
But, and the developer is actually very keen to let you know that you will break your system if you're not careful while using this. And I remember the very first Linux install I had, it took me probably 3 hours to get it from the full install to a completely unbootable state. If I had this tool back then, it would have probably taken me 10 minutes.
I love the fact that your first Linux install had an X server. That's novel.
Yeah, it was Fedora 5, Fedora 6, something like that.
I mean, one of the things it allows you to do is you can enable the ability to disable the prompt for sudo. I mean, no password required. That's some straight up sabotage just to mentally mess with your friends and coworkers. So when they go into super user, it doesn't. I'm like, what? No, I'm already in there. What's going on?
Yeah, it's a bit all over the place. So there's things for package management, for sudo management as well. You can back up your sudoers file. There's a bunch of different things. There's an option to enable or disable hibernation. There's an option to see the little asterisks on the command line when you type your password. It's a bit all over the place. It's a bit similar to, let's say, I think I've seen similar tools that would let you do this whole bunch of stuff. I don't remember.
I think there used to be a few back in the day, back in the
2008 or 2009, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know who this is aimed for, but I mean, it's a thing, and just go to the GitHub page because it's brilliant to read things like executing actions to blow of mouse click. And really, that's the only thing I'm going to hold against the developer because I don't believe he used Google Translate for this. This is clearly the work of Bing Translate, and if you use Twitter, you've been the victim of that, I'm sure, at least once.
Yep. But moving on from something that will likely break your system to something that will most likely break your system if you try to use it right now. It's Qt, or Qt, I refuse to call it Qt. It's Qt 5.10. And there's a bit of a blog announcement as to what version 5.10 will bring, and the big one, obviously, is Vulkan. Yep, they're introducing Vulkan to the Qt framework, and right now, it's just a very basic set of enablers. It doesn't do everything in Vulkan just yet. It just allows for better management of, say you create a window with a Vulkan context. You can actually properly address that window using Qt bindings. But the rest of the system, assuming you have a composited system with GLX, is still very much working out of OpenGL. So, yeah. But they say that as they progress, they intend for Vulkan to be much more widely used and probably introduce Vulkan support to the rest of the Qt framework. And that is a very good idea, because Vulkan rendering in my GUIs is something I've been asking for a while, and this is a step in the right direction. It's a very small step, and it's only the first one. We still need a lot more, but it's a good step.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think the first thing the Qt people realize is, we've started working on DX12 renderer, but yeah, that's not really cross-platform. And Vulkan is. So, yeah, since Qt is cross-platform, it really makes sense. And then they make some good design decisions regarding the actual code of like the implementation of Vulkan. Like they haven't chosen to go with a bunch of if-def in the code, and they have like these common interfaces they can plug into. So yeah, it provides a cleaner interface. And now that means that the two major widget renderers, like GTK and Qt, have or will have in the near future Vulkan support. So that's really cool.
Okay, don't listen to any of that, because we all know that DX12 is in fact the future, brah. I do like how they pointed out that it doesn't work on WinRT, and there's the one guy like in the background of the entire crowd, and he's like, damn it. That's basically it. So, kind of brilliant. Always looking forward to more Vulkan sauce. Now, Strider will attempt to explain in under 3 minutes why we need to talk about this. Go.
Yeah, so Google are considering using BTRFS for their Android phones and Android devices. So they are discussing the possibility of doing that, but they won't do it right away because it's missing full disk encryption and per file and per folder encryption. So they were like talking about it in the BTRFS mailing list, saying, okay, there have been some patches. What's the status on that? I've tried BTRFS. I haven't had good experiences with this. I sure hope that this will allow the file system to get more robust, because when you have a device that might likely shut down any minute, because that's what Android devices do, you want to have something where you won't lose your data. So if it's a system partition and it's like read-only, then yeah, maybe it will be very, very much more robust. The one thing that baffles me is it looks like they're expecting the BTRFS developers to provide this encryption, but come on, it's Google. It's a multi-billion company with thousands of developers. Why don't they provide the patches themselves?
I'm just going to save the feed. It's Alphabet, not Google.
Alphabet, Google, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's still Google that writes Android.
Yeah, and it was also Google that proposed removing ext3 and ext4 support from Chrome OS. You know, those two file systems that are basically stable at this point. Google doesn't have to do anything for those to work, and they proposed removing them for the sake of what exactly? No one knows, and basically the Linux community just fell on it. It's like, so you're releasing a Linux-based OS without ext support? Ha! Yeah. So, as Google doesn't really give a flying rodent's backside about open source, they use it because they can, and it gives them a lot of good press, and they don't have to pay Microsoft, Apple, whomever, to get a license for whatever bit of software. They can just grab one or make one themselves they have made a few. Then pointed it out in the notes. 2,000 projects and counting. It's
2,000 in the notes. At 2,000 projects and counting, comma sun.
Yes. They have made a lot of open source contributions. I'm not calling that into question, but fact of the matter is, the bulk of their revenue when it comes to software and whatnot, it's all proprietary. Their ad system is proprietary. Their Android integration with their the rest of their Google stuff, proprietary.
Open sourced Android, open source TensorFlow, open source how they put together their data. Yeah, listen. Google's come a long way from do no evil, bud. There's bigger targets out there to worry about, and better file system. I mean, just use XFS or something killer like Riser. Strider, why do you want me to get rid of rsync?
rsync, because there's a better version now coming out. I mean, it's not ready yet, but it's in progress, and it's under the systemd GitHub account. So you know that systemd wants to replace pretty much every component of your system, and now they're going after rsync and
Daddy,
other.
what was it? What is Linux? It's what we used to call systemd.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's a very neat tool. I mean, that's something I would want to try it out, because it's not only for transferring files, but it's also to make archives, to version them. So that was a big thing that wasn't available with Git. I mean, you could do it. You could version like big binary files, but that's really not recommended to do with Git. But with this, you can version, backup, transfer a bunch of directories, or like even partitions, system partition, disk image. It's very efficient. I don't know how it's related to systemd, other than it's made by Leonard Pottering, but yeah,
it's a systemd subservice.
Yeah. So I
That's
guess
literally
you need
what it
to
is.
be using systemd.
It is about as integrated into systemd as most of the Linux ecosystem, if we're being perfectly honest. And I think systemd now provides even more functionality than svchost.exe does on Windows. Next step, just have a built-in text editor.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not anti-systemd. I fully understand the arguments against it, and agree with most of them. But we're just going to see how it plays out. That's the end of the story. This is a neat project. This is way beyond the scope of my rsync script that takes everything and sends it down to Zathnas in the basement every night. So, hey, go check it out. Maybe you hate it just because of who it was developed by. That's awesome, too. Keep being cool. Okay, real quick on this. Inkscape moved to GitLab. Did it change anything about Inkscape?
Nope, nothing whatsoever. The newer versions of Inkscape, instead of going to Launchpad like they used to, now go to GitLab. That's it. I had some things about GitHub and GitHub being a proprietary web-based implementation of Git, but Strider is like, GitHub is not Git. I know that, Strider. I know. It's just...
but people keep repeating that. They confuse GitHub and Git, and those are not the same thing. Git is the tool written by Linus Torvalds.
Oh, you just keep talking, man. I use Git as a derogatory slang, man. It's
well, you and the rest of the Dark Souls community, get good.
Yes, as well, yeah. But it doesn't have the same meaning in that scenario. But yeah, I mean, a few days ago, you would have asked me what's the biggest project that is hosted on Launchpad, and I would have answered Inkscape. And now I really don't know who uses Launchpad except for Ubuntu. But yeah, I mean, this is a good decision. Going with Git is always a wise choice. So only good things will come out of this.
All right. So up next, we have Joshua Strobel from Solus giving us a little bit of a blog post saying they're growing. They are welcoming Stefan Rick to the team. He he's been helping the community a lot when it comes to Solus, and he's created a couple of applets that work with Budgie, and he's been helping out with Budgie. But the big story is Ike Doherty. You may know him. We had him on a bit of an interview, what we did a few months back.
Yeah, I mean, we interviewed his punching bag, and Ike came along. It was
Yes. We had only asked the punching bag, but Ike was there, and he had his farmer cap on, so we let him hang around. But now, if you follow him on Google+, you may have known that he was working for Intel. Namely, he was working on the Intel Clear Linux project, which is their own Linux distribution. Now, Ike is basically saying, okay, Solus has gotten to the point where it's so big that I can justify, even though they didn't hit the $2,500 goal on their Patreon, where they said that they would support a developer to come in full time. He just said, okay, no, this is already taking way too much time of my life, and I can make do with the money that they are getting right now, so work on Solus full time. And I, for one, am totally okay with this, because Solus, I've been running it on my laptop basically since I got the laptop. It was the first distro I loaded in there, and I was genuinely positively surprised. So I kept it. And it supports the Mate desktop. Maybe it'll support KDE in the future. There have been some tweets and some brouhahas about it. Ike, during that interview, also said that they would be merging the root lib and USR lib folders, so it would work like a sane Linux distribution would. Ubuntu with 6 different lib folders. And as much as I can deal with Ubuntu Mate that I'm currently using right now, I'm sorry, Martin, but Solus is making a very, very good case for me to switch to it.
I don't know, man. I think at the end of the day, I mean, I still think the rolling release version of Solus should be renamed to Punching Bag. I'm not joking. I'm just giving you some free marketing advice there.
Yeah, I mean, what amazes me is what you've been seeing so far is Solus pretty much maintained by Ike as a side project. Now, imagine that with Ike working full-time on the distribution. That's right, you can't, because it would be too overwhelming. And I mean, that's really awesome. That's something I really would like to be able to do, like working full time on Lutris for a very long period of time. I mean, I've been able to do that to some extent, but still, I don't really get any money from it. So at some point, I have to find a real job that will pay me, because Lutris won't. So yeah, I mean, that's really good for the project. It's already a very solid distro, and it's only going to get better after that.
All right, wishing him the best of luck. I look forward to improvements in XML performance.
In 50K increments.
Also, Strider, you got to do the marketing thing, man. Patreon.com/Lutris. Go check that business out. So, hello, my lady. Hello, my darling. Hello, my Fedora 26 beta. It's there. Yes, Fedora. Unfortunately, it just installs now. Sucks all the fun out of it. I mean, it installs to a desktop. You're like, where's the popcorn, man? This is not Fedora Core 1 that I spent 3 days playing with in order to get my Wi-Fi's working. Nay. It has a bunch of new things. Starting with this, BLive GUI for disk partitioning? That's kind of neat. Kind of want to play with that. When I saw that, I was like, oh man, am I about to install Fedora again? It might happen, because we are going to be building a new box of business. Go language update 1.8 that includes 32-bit MIPS support, simultaneously releasing for ARM Power, which is like, Power? Really? You released for Power? Then I didn't even get started. It's like, yeah, S390X ARCs too. It's like, okay, wow, why not? That's kind of brilliant. The Workstation edition now includes this thing called Nightlight. Like the two of you out there that just don't run your monitors on minimum brightness anyway, because, light, hiss, and all that fun stuff. Looks like a neat piece of kit, Strider.
Yeah, that Nightlight feature. I mean, I'm one of those 2 people. So I use it. I like it a lot. It's a feature that is from GNOME 3.24. So it's also available in Ubuntu 17.04 and pretty much on every distro that ships with the latest GNOME. The only problem I have with this feature is their definition of tomorrow, which starts at midnight. So if you turn off the night lights, when midnight comes, it comes back in. So there's a bug report about it. It will get fixed. So the interesting thing to note about Fedora itself is that they have 2 new spins, and one is LXQT. And the other one was a bit more surprising because it's named Python Classroom Lab. So this is something I approve a lot. And apparently it's for education and learning kids how to code in Python. So I don't really know the details, what it does have that others wouldn't have. But yeah, very good stuff.
I, for one, always liked the idea of LXQT. LXD, it's basically LXDE with the Qt framework, and by default would use Kwin as the window manager. But every single time I tried it, it managed to break in new and interesting ways, so I always ended up not using it.
Maybe I've always been a fan of Fedora. I've been using it. I've been using Fedora when it was called Red Hat, before they dropped it. And in all honesty, this current box that we're using for the streaming and encoding will probably end up with CentOS on it as opposed to Fedora, because we'll need it to do the same thing over and over. Maybe we'll just put Rawhide on it or something like that and live dangerous. We'll dual boot Arch. It'll be brilliant. Okay, something else you can install in your box because you want to see what's new in the Firefox. That rhymed unintentionally. Go me. 54.0 is out. Yeah, it's got a thing. It's got a bunch of new fixes, security fixes, a couple things. Going on. Strater's like, I don't care about it, man. It's just old sauce. It's stuff they did last week. But it did include the speedy thing, though, right? For everyone.
Yes, we talked about the multi-process renderer for Firefox. And now it should be enabled by default for everyone except if the extensions is there. So you might have to set it. Other than that, there does.
You break it up there a little bit, buddy.
A little bit. We will.
Uh-oh. It looks like everyone's internet has died. Oh, noes. Well, we'll have to see what's going on there. But no, a couple of things in that, man. If you want to enable it, that's the multi-process Windows support. It is currently enabled. Check about support to make sure it is. It's currently could be disabled because you have add-ons installed in it. If you want to force it without disabling add-ons until you figure out which one, because I know a lot of people have all the add-ons and it's quite frightening. You can go to your About config, just create a new Boolean pref named browser tab remote force. It's in the show notes. And just set that business to true and everything will be brilliant, huh? All right, that's going to do it for the news. But Pedro, hey man, I don't like reading ads. We don't like reading ads, but we are 100% listener funded, and I think we should wave at everyone and thank them for supporting the show, man.
Yeah, and this is the only thing close to an ad that we'll do on the show, which is basically to plug ourselves. If you want to contribute and be a part of this insane family that is Linux Gamecast, you can do so by going to linuxgamecast.com. You hit the support button. We have a link to our Patreon campaign. We have Amazon affiliate links if you like to shop through Amazon. We have an Amazon wish list if you just want to contribute with material stuff directly instead of just the good old monies. There are some PayPal donato buttons and a QR code you can scan to give us some magical internet monies. Yes. And we do have to thank Andre Lupa for sending some wet stinky caches our way this week. Thank you, Andre, very, very much. We did a bit of a give in Linux Gamecast Weekly. So you might want to have a look at that episode, just saying.
Well, hey, man, one of the things we gave away, we're giving away a copy of Slain back from Hack Edition.
Yes.
I mean, You might be digging it. You might just want it for the soundtrack. go check that out. You just have to share that show on, you can do it on the Facebooks, the Twitters, the G+. It's kind of brilliant. But yes, Chalupa. Thank you for helping us out. We got that wish list of stuff on the Amazons that we are currently, that's like what we're planning on buying. And if we have to stare at it every single day, it'll speed the process up. Because at the end of the month, when all the bills are paid, thanks with our Patreon support and everything else, we get a little bit of change laying around. So we're trying to figure out where that is going to go. It's kind of brilliant. Thanks for keeping us on the air. All right.
All the shillings made me hungry.
There you go.
Give me that pie. Yes. So we have but the one slice of pie this week. What's this about?
So this is about a vulnerability that was discovered recently. So hackers have been using people's Raspberry Pis for mining Bitcoins and other types of cryptocurrency. So they've been accessing Pis that were out there in the open using the default credentials. Then say, okay, the door's open. I'll just come in and install my Bitcoin miner and set this up. And okay.
And it wasn't just the Bitcoin miner. It came with a full-blown Trojan that would actively look for other Raspberry Pis also using the default credentials in the network and would replicate itself like any good little virus should do.
Yes, exactly.
So moral of the story is basically just don't use the default credentials on your Raspberry Pis.
I'd have a better version of that moral is don't use the devil credential on any device if it's exposed to the internet. I mean, if it's behind a router or anything, then you're probably fine. But as soon as it's outside, available from the internet, then you're in big trouble.
Possibly Strider, check your box. I just updated everything for you while you were talking. For me, like step one with any device is, SSHD config, change that to 5578008. Some people will get that joke.
That's also known as I haven't changed the lock. I've just changed where the door is. So,
no, but you should actually also change the default port. That's just good practice.
Mm-hmm.
You should do both, yes.
And put it behind 7 boxes. Then ultimately, are they really going for Bitcoin? Because you're not going to be mining the Bitcoins with x86 CPUs, much less. Right?
Yeah, they would probably be going for other type of Bitcoins because now it's very hard to mine anything.
Well, I'm guessing they were going for quantity over quality of a single system. It's basically as many Raspberry Pis as you can will probably amount to what is a low-end laptop.
Maybe they can do something with it in the Ethereum, Litecoin, Kanye West, or whatever you want to do. But I was thinking about that, and it's like, they've sold billions of, slightly exaggerating, Raspberry Pis. As an example, I was like, yes, how many have a maintained active network connections? Like, ooh, he's like, yeah. And how many of those are not, behind decent security from the types of people that would buy a Raspberry Pi? Ooh, yeah. So, the sky's not falling down, ladies and gentlemen. Sleep well tonight, knowing that you're probably not mining Bitcoins in your sleep. Hey, let's do a little bit of feedback before we get out of here, Pedro.
You can get in touch with us if you feel like we said something that was wrong or just not 100% accurate, or you just want to say disparaging remarks about our families. You can go to linuxgamecast.com, you hit the support button, fill out the form, make sure to pick LWDW from the little drop-down choosy thing. It's pretty easy. If you do, we'll feature your message right here, right now. So this week we have Josh, and he's talking about the Humble Linux book bundle that we talked about last week, 2 weeks ago, at some point. And he says, for a bit of the real book feel, there's always the regular Kindle with its e-paper display. It reads just like paper. Yeah, when I mentioned that some people prefer to read books in the physical format, it's the actual act of grabbing a page and having that smell of new book. Admittedly, I kind of like that.
Writing
too.
on your fixie, sipping your PBR.
You don't have to be a hipster to enjoy reading a book. But yeah, I can see why
no,
some
Pedro,
people
you
would
don't.
like
You just have to hate the environment.
Seriously, don't buy new books. Just buy them used, please.
No, I mean, that's definitely a thing. I have Gen 1 Kindle, the e-paper one,
Yeah.
somewhere, and I think it's been charged all of once. I guarantee you it still has a charge to it.
Oh yeah, it uses no battery.
Right. The only reason I keep it around, because I think it has like the lifetime sneaker crawl internet access on it. It's like, that might not come in handy after the zombie apocalypse because all the networks will be down, but don't think about it like that. Strider, are you books or what?
I'm
black and
mostly
white.
frozen right now, so let me fix that. And yeah, I mean, the only annoying thing about the e-paper thing is that there's usually not a backlight. I don't know. Never had a Kindle, but I don't think there's a backlight on it. So yeah, I mean, I like being able to read in the dark. So I'd rather.
Well,
have,
you should always
I don't
have
know.
an extra light, and if you don't want to strain your pretty little
And
eyes,
remember,
right?
kids, don't listen to your parents. And it's like, don't watch TV in the dark. Don't use the computer. Don't sit so close to the monitor. And don't use it with all the lights out. Because if that was the case, we'd all be genuinely blind. And I do believe I speak for everyone within the sound of my voice. So,
Yeah.
coming up next, Don writes in. He's like, hey, man, servers. Did you guys read about this ? Using servers to act as water heaters. It might be nifty, and he does link over to this Verge article. Of course, it's the Dutch. Dutch households will use servers to heat their showers for free.
Showers and not just. You can use it as a central heating system. This isn't the first company to do this. There have been, over the years, there have been like many attempts to do this. And I think at one point, Microsoft was actively offering people money to let them set a big old closet server in their house and then just do the piping to provide heating for your entire apartment from a single server rack. And that's a pretty good idea, for being honest, if you don't mind.
This is a stupid idea. This is a moronic idea for all parties involved. You think having an echo's bad enough? F that. Let's just install a full HAL 9000, son, and get that done with. Then you got to deal with connectivity issues. Then you got the power issues. How do you set that?
The connectivity.
Then, on top of everything else, you have to be the company stupid enough to put your data, your server, in a regular household where the dog will piss on it. Strider.
I mean, if hackers are going out of their way to try and infect IoT stuff like fridges.
Okay, let's just go ahead and cover that. All right, so there's some data in there that's a bit valuable. Hackers now, they're not going to hack in. They're going to kick your door in. Kick your dog for pissing on the server because they're cross with it, then steal the server, and hopefully nothing else.
Yes. Worst case scenario, you're far more likely to get your door kicked in. Yes.
I think I just named off more bad ideas than you did, Good.
I mean, the good idea is that they will cover the connectivity issues. It'll have its own separate internet connection. They will pay you the extra cost and a little bit of commission on top of that for you to have the server in your house. Of course, you will also probably have to sign several different contracts and liability agreements. So yeah, it is a bad idea, but it's also a good idea, because it lets you use that excess heat that servers tend to produce to do something useful.
Yeah, I would rather have servers that do not produce this heat. So maybe a bit more efficient servers like ARM stuff, or I don't know. It just seems to be better just to aim for the least power use. I know that's not always possible, but that should always be the target.
I mean, then again, they could just be using Pentium 4s. It's this is just recalculus. I mean, just to put the death nail in it, it's something I did shortly after buying this house. I am getting a tankless hot water heater. It was like, oh, get a Renai. I went to the stores. How much does that cost? And I was like, what's the name of the knockoff brand? I'll have me one of those. Went Walter White, installed it myself. It's brilliant. I have a timer in my shower now because I genuinely was in the shower for like 45 minutes straight going, this is fine. Thinking about, can I get a waterproof tablet? I can just hang out in here all day. That is so much more efficient and a lot cheaper than running a box in your house. But hey, thank you for running us in your house or on your ride to work or however you choose to consume this. If you listen to the audio version, always on demand. You can download it at linuxthemecast.com. It's got the RSS thingy. We're on the YouTubes if you want the video version. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If you're watching on YouTube, check those links down at the bottom, subscribe, and all that fun stuff they tell you to do, or all that business.
That's how we got downvotes, Vin.
Yeah. At Vinstone on Twitter, or just plus Vinstone on G+. If you want to talk to me, follow me, wave in my general direction.
Yeah, pretty much. At Unaccounted For on Twitter or plus with the Matheus on Google+. Just poke me. Chances are I will most likely get back to you at some point.
And you can find me on Twitter at Strikor and on Google+, plus Patio Commando. I also make this thing called Lutris.
Never heard of it. Tell me about it.
Insanity!
And when you've gone and supported Linux Gamecast, go to Patreon, still on Patreon, and go support Lutris as well.
All right, beautiful people. We will see you next week. Hopefully, nothing will melt, and the world will be a better place. It's been a great day for Linux, everyone. Cheers.
I will probably melt. It's 9 p.m. and it's 27 degrees outside.
Good.
Yeah. See you next week. And it's pretty good weather here.
And we fire the credits.
No, it's really warm here.
Oh, I don't want to hear your bullshit. Oh, hide your kids.
Credits still rolling. You're going to have to beat that.
No, I stopped it, man. I got out. I didn't throw the T there at the end because...
Oh, bullshit is okay.
It doesn't matter. I got to do a hack editing job on this thing anyway, man. So.
Yeah, you're going to have to slice those two bits together. Thanks, Skype. Much appreciated.